teach at Bangalore University, but that's not why I'm here. I must recall the lovely years that we spent as family friends of the Gemellos in a place called Jayamahal Extension. That was between 1960 and 1968. That was when the Gemellos used to stay not too far up the road. They were staying in Benson Town, and we used to stay in Jayamahal Extension. But then we had a lot of other things in common. Predominant fact being that Uncle Gemello and my father were in the IAS together, they were colleagues. And there were a lot of things that my father, who was P. Krishna, is no more, and Uncle Gemello had in common. And that drew our two families together, and that was easily the most memorable association of the associations that I remember. I was very young those days. I was in school. Joey was also in the same school. But we used to meet rather frequently. And I remember very vividly the occasions when we used to visit each other's places and so on. Subsequently, they moved out. We continued to stay in Jayamahal Extension. But the bond that made the two families, we have been able to keep up. I lost my father, I lost my mother, but with Auntie Gemello and with the four kids, we have maintained the contact. This explains why I'm here standing before all of you, requested to propose a toast. I'm not very sure whether I qualify more than so many of you who probably do a better toast. But when the idea was floated, I just grabbed it because there are a lot of things that I need to share with all of you about Auntie Gemello, about Uncle and about the family. And therefore I stand before you, ladies and gentlemen. I've come with a written text. I never go into class without a written text, so I hope you'll forgive me for this. But I will better express my feelings if I were to refer to this now and then. Before I begin, let me also acknowledge gratitude to the spade work that my better half did to put this together. I had an extremely busy day yesterday and I had a lot of questions to ask Auntie Gemello. I just didn't have the time to do that, so I put it down in writing, gave it to my better half and said, if you could kindly speak to Auntie Gemello and fill it out, I'll come in the evening and put it together. So I must acknowledge the gratitude to the role of my wife here in putting together a lot of things that I wish to share with you on this occasion. Joey, this may tend to get a little long. I hope it's okay.
Oh, that's okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot say how delighted I am to have been given the privilege of saying a few words on an important occasion like the one we have all gathered here this evening to celebrate and to cherish the 80th birthday of a very remarkable and unique person, Auntie Gertrude Gemello. It is not every day that one gets an opportunity to celebrate such a unique event for several reasons. Touching 80 is not a joke these days, notwithstanding the fact that longevity is indeed going up. But please tell me, ladies and gentlemen, how often does one come across people celebrating their 80th birthdays in full control of their faculties as Aunt Gertie, as well preserved as she was at 50, as elegant, beautiful and charming as she always was as Aunt Gertie is today, and as affectionate, loving and kind-hearted as she always was. So this makes it extremely unique event. Ladies and gentlemen, as I was telling you, for all these reasons and many more, I consider it not just my good fortune, but an honor and a privilege to say a few words about one of the most unforgettable persons I have ever met in my life. Some of these facts all of you know, but I have my daughter and my son-in-law to be also here, and they don't know too much about the de Mellos, and therefore some of these facts are also meant for their specific benefit. Aunt Gertie was born to Mr. Basil Brito, who served the British government as the DFO, and Amy Brito. She was one among 8 children who were and are still united, notwithstanding the bereavement of the eldest brother and sister. Aunt Gertie's educational career, she first went to a convent and then to Basil Mission High School at Belgaum. She studied at the historic Karnataka College at Harvard. A remarkable thing about her educational career is that she completed her graduation after marriage. This is where I asked my wife to ask Aunt Gertie some questions. And the questions and her answers are now going to be read out by me. Here and there I may add something of my own, but this is where the quiz begins. Aunt Gertie, what were your childhood dreams? This is from her. She wanted to be a lawyer. And my daughter and my son-in-law are also budding lawyers, practicing advocates. But then Aunt Gertie went on to say, perhaps an actress. Well, this is where I must add something. Had Aunt Gertie joined Hollywood, I think she would have given actresses like Vivian Leigh, Olivia de Havilland, and Audrey Hepburn a run for their money. Fortunately for Uncle de Mello, that didn't happen. I believe theirs was a love marriage, and then this was a question posed to her. What were the qualities that attracted you to Uncle de Mello? Now, Aunt Gertie has been extremely, what shall I say, well, tight-fisted with her remarks, answers to this question. All she said was, he was a friendly man. Well, I'm sure there was much more to this, but then she doesn't want to reveal it for whatever reason, and we just let it lie. Both came from well-educated families with strong religious values, with parents in extremely good positions. I was particular with asking Auntie this, what were the memorable postings of Uncle that you would recollect? In fact, I remember my mother telling me, giving me a lot of anecdotes about my father's postings in the service. Aunt Gertie remembers Uncle being posted as the collector of 2 very nice districts, very picturesque districts. One was Coorg those days, now it's called Kodagu. Another was Karwar, now it's called Uttar Kannada district. Uncle, as all of us know, rose to occupy easily one of the highest positions in the state government. He retired, prior to his retirement in a particular position, he was Secretary to Government, Department of Health, Department of Education, and he retired as the CMD of MEI, Mysore Electrical Industries. Apart from these facts, I was keen that Aunt Gertie tell us something about an incident, an anecdote that stood out during the time that she went around with Uncle de Mello during his round of the districts. And this very interesting anecdote comes out. I read this out for you. When Uncle de Mello was Assistant Commissioner at Bhatkal Taluk, that's in Karwar district, Mrs. Violet Alva came to meet them, or they went to meet her. And that was the time when Aunt Gertie was with two plants, 2 long plants. And I believe Mrs. Violet Alva simply couldn't, reconcile Aunt Gertie being with Uncle de Mello. And let me repeat a point that Mrs. Violet Alva said on that occasion. My goodness, Mrs. de Mello, I thought you came from the Nizam of Hyderabad's family. You look so distinguished. So that anecdote I thought I'd just share with you. The quiz goes on a little more after that. Aunt Gertie, could you list 5 or more noble qualities that you would like to remember Uncle And these are the 6 qualities that Aunt Gertie had no hesitation in saying, and let's repeat that. Honesty and integrity, principled and clean. This is where I would like to bring a personal touch to this. This is exactly what brought Uncle De Mello and my father together. Uncle De Mello was an absolutely upright officer, and his honesty and integrity were legendary. These days, all of us know the kind of depths to which our both politics and civil service have lowered to. But those were the grand old days when we had the civil servants like Uncle De Mello, who believed in absolute honesty, integrity, and in principled behavior. How many IAS officers do we have today who retired without owning or building a house? That was Uncle De Mello. There is a story of a police officer who visited Auntie recently, who went around the house, was absolutely surprised that Auntie was still living in a rented house, and I believe he made this comment as he walked out. Mr. De Mello must have been an absolutely honest officer. That's the top on the list of qualities that we need to remember Uncle De Mello by, and these are the other qualities that Aunt Gertie would like us to remember here. He was of religious mind, he was an excellent husband, he was an excellent father, he had a very helpful nature, and also, this surprised me a little bit, a very good speaker. I don't think I had the privilege of listening to Uncle speaking. But when I do go to Bangalore University, which is one part of his career which I think we seem to have missed out, I remember very vividly that Uncle De Mello was sent as special officer before Bangalore University came into being, to do all this paid work, identifying the area where Bangalore University should come up, and probably also the initial faculty which had to be recruited. And I remember my colleagues, senior colleagues in Bangalore University saying that had it not been for Mr. C. D. De Mello, probably we would not be in this lovely place where Bangalore University is currently located. I had a mischievous question to ask Aunt Gertie at this point. What was the other side of Uncle, which you may also like us to remember on this occasion? And this is on top of Aunt Gertie's list. I believe when the alliance was being fixed up between Uncle and Aunt Gertie, one of the first comments Aunt Gertie did was to tell her father, "Papa, he is so serious," talking about Uncle De Mello. And then listen to the reply that her father gave her, "That is the right man for you." So that's one point that Aunt wants us to remember here. The other point is what my mother always used to complain about my father. I'm not sure whether I think my wife also does the same with me. She says, Aunt Gertie says, Uncle De Mello was too involved with his work. I don't know whether there's a plus or a minus point. You should talk to my wife after this. The third point was that Uncle De Mello was not domesticated, in the sense that without Aunt he would be nowhere. I think I'm better off there. Check with my wife. The other point that Aunt would like us to remember here is that he was not always ready to accept her views. I think there many of us menfolk have a lot of things in common. The quiz goes on like this. As mother and homemaker, Aunt Gertie, could you list 4 or 5 uncompromising principles? And I think it's important because we need to keep these principles in mind. Towards religion, Aunt Gertie has been absolutely uncompromising. Likewise, towards studies, she has been uncompromising. Character has been again top on the list of uncompromising principles. In her behavior with others, again, Aunt Gertie has left nothing, no stone unturned, impeccable behavior. And the 5th point is about matrimonial alliances as far as her children were concerned. And here Aunt Gertie says that she's always preferred arranged matches to letting them make their own choices. I'm not sure how Joey would react to this, but this is exactly what Aunt had to say on this occasion. And finally, I come to my last set of questions. I'm sorry this is getting a little long, but these are my last set of questions. Aunt Gertie, if you could lead your life all over again, question A. married the same man? Now this is a very mysterious question. The answer is bang on, yes. Would you have wanted the same set of children? And here, even more emphatically, she has said, yes, definitely. And these are her words, I treasure all my 4 children. So Joey, Tommy, I don't see Tommy around, should be somewhere here. Your colors should go up at this point of time. Would you want the same set of friends? The answer very candidly is not some. I don't think none of us need to worry too much here because those guys obviously are not invited here. Okay? This is probably the most mysterious question because quite a few of you are relatives. Would you want the same set of relatives? And I'm saying this because there's a saying about friends and relatives. You can't do a thing about relatives, but thank God you can choose your friends. Now against the background this question was asked, and Aunt Gertie has said, I'm friendly with all of them, I have absolutely no grudges, and finally she says, I wouldn't mind the same lot of relatives. So I think there's a lot to be happy about here. Finally, Aunt Gertie, what are your hopes, dreams, aspirations for the next 20 years? I have this habit of planning for 20 years at a stretch. So my question was next 20 years. And Aunt Gertie's immediate reaction was, I don't want to live that long. But Auntie, we want you to live that long. Then she says, I want to be spiritual, I want to be with God, I want to seek inner peace, I want to continue to do good to fellow creatures, I want to lead a contented life. And she said here that money cannot give you contentment, it's the good things that you do that gives you contentment. And she also brings in gratitude to all the people who have done nice things to her. And this is what she would like to keep in mind for the next 20 years. So ladies and gentlemen, I finally come to the end of my not so small toast. I request all of you to join me in proposing a toast to Aunt Gertie de Mello on this landmark occasion, her 80th birthday, to invoke divine blessings, continue to keep her in good health and spirits, grant her peace, contentment, and all that you would like to have for the next 20 years when Aunt Gertie will score a century. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know whether all of you are planning to be around 20 years from now, but I want to be around, and I want also to be invited to propose a toast to Aunt Gertie. So thank you very much for your invitation.
I'm going to say a few words, but can you stop it? Yeah.